Penguin Random House Audio presents The Naturalist, Theodore Roosevelt and the Rise of American Natural History by Darrin Lunde. Read for you by Scott Brick. Introduction. Imagine what's behind a closed door in a natural history museum. Back rooms lined with jars of snakes and alcohol, a vault full of hippo skulls, an attic of elephant bones. Rooms stacked with thousands of stuffed birds, basement vats of alcohol-preserved gorillas, or a closet of tanned zebra hides. All these things are hiding from museum patrons, beyond exhibitions and displays. This is the unseen world of a natural history museum, awash with scientific specimens. Stuffed, skeletonized, or preserved whole in jars, nearly all these animals were collected by museum naturalists. Millions of these specimens will never be displayed. The public will never see them. Instead, they are collected for scientific study, which is essential to understanding the world's great diversity of life. Every known animal species, every bird, mammal, fish, frog, and snake was named based on museum specimens. Virtually everything we know about the morphology, geographic distribution, and ancestral relationships of animals is derived from the vast collections of specimens housed in museums. Natural history museums represent our vast record of life on Earth. Some of these rooms may have been partially filled by Theodore Roosevelt, who, among many other things, was an intrepid museum naturalist. From early childhood through his years in the White House, Roosevelt studied animals by shooting them, stuffing them, and preserving them in natural history museums, and we should be thankful he did. One of the country's greatest museums, the American Museum of Natural History, was founded in his living room when he was just a boy. He lived in an age when natural history museums commissioned scientists to explore and document uncharted terrain, collecting specimens for both study and exhibit. Whether sent to the deepest jungles of Central Africa, the high Himalayas, or the deserts of the American West, these museum naturalists camped out in the remotest parts of the world for weeks and months at a time. They slung guns over their shoulders and fought their way into the last unknown regions of the world, all in the name of zoological exploration. Part scientist, part explorer, they collected animals by the thousands. And for such a naturalist, collect meant kill and preserve, a fact easily forgotten today. From a very early age, Theodore Roosevelt devoted a great deal of his energy to building up his own natural history collection. He was seduced by the challenge of collecting something rare. Although hunting birds and mammals for science has a higher purpose, nature's mysteries are best revealed with a dead specimen in hand. For Roosevelt, collecting specimens also satisfied his desire for adventure. Museum naturalists might be thought of as hunters for science, their trophy rooms, the vast collections housed in natural history museums. Despite the size of their stores, the collections of these institutions aren't limited to taxidermy exhibits. More valuable to scientists are museum study skins, prepared to be densely packed in rows of cabinets full of drawers. Bird specimens lie breast up, their wings tight against the body and bill pointing forward. Mammal specimens lie prone, arms and legs extended, their cleaned skull in a box or vial set to the side. Museum specimens represent a compromise. They are stuffed so that they show all the external features of the animals, but in a way that will allow many examples of the same species to be stored neatly and compactly. Museums put their specimens in taxonomic order, meaning one can walk down an aisle of cabinets to browse through similar species of a kind. There might be a long run of, say, voles in the rodent section of a collection, and opening drawer after drawer would gradually reveal the many different species of voles: pine voles, red-backed voles, prairie voles, and so on, each species distinguished by particular traits. The real value of all these collections, and the thing that drives any zoological collector to want to gather more specimens in the field, is posterity. These collections are kept in perpetuity, providing a historical record of past expeditions while at the same time documenting biodiversity. Wandering the various storerooms of such a museum is like traveling around the world, thanks to the efforts of what probably amounts to thousands of years of cumulative human effort in assembling these collections from every corner of the globe. Museum specimens are traditionally identified by a paper tag attached to the preserved animal's leg. Often yellowed with age and annotated in tight cursive, the tag gives the precise location of an expedition, the exact date the animal was trapped or shot, and the name of the naturalist who captured it. Thus, the collector is forever tied to his specimens. But who were these early museum naturalists? And why was Theodore Roosevelt so inspired by them? Museum naturalists have seldom been well understood, but as a member of their ranks, I have some insight. I've spent my entire adult life working as a museum naturalist, and, like Roosevelt, I have specialized in mammals, the kinds of specimens you get by trapping and shooting. Starting out at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City before moving on to the Smithsonian's National Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C., I have personally collected thousands of specimens while on expeditions for these institutions. I know something of the romance of being a museum naturalist, and of the passions that motivated Roosevelt's desire to become one. I started working for the American Museum of Natural History right after college graduation, and the ensuing years now seem like a string of continuous expeditions to the remotest regions of South America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. I have lived and worked in deep wilderness for weeks and months at a time, often toting a shotgun, camped miles from civilization with no communication with the outside world. I spent most of this time setting traps by day or roaming the jungles alone at night in search of animals to shoot. I have been charged by forest elephants while working in the Congo rainforest and contracted serious tropical diseases while working in the jungles of South America. Dangers of a more human nature have included sidestepping wildlife traffickers while working in the mountainous border regions of Southeast Asia. I know firsthand what it means to be the kind of museum naturalist who embarks on these extreme sorts of specimen collecting expeditions. Our brand of zoological exploration has remained virtually unchanged since the heyday of collecting expeditions more than a century ago. Indeed, this timelessness makes the profession even more alluring to some. Most museum naturalists were largely self-motivated and began collecting animals at a very early age. Driven by adventure, many struggled to gain acceptance as real scientists. Collecting expeditions can seem like extreme forms of camping and sport hunting rather than serious scientific study. Yet the privations of museum collecting are substantial enough to ward off all but the most ardent adherents. Tropical disease, strained family relations, financial ruin, and the threat of violent death offer constant bedevilment. But those who persist ultimately end up at the largest and most prestigious natural history museums: the American Museum of Natural History, Chicago's Field Museum of Natural History, and the Smithsonian Institution, to name just a few. These remain the ultimate centers of gravity for the very best museum naturalists. From the time Theodore Roosevelt was a young boy until very near his death, he collected animal specimens for museums. And yet this fundamental aspect of his life has never been fully presented from the perspective of a museum naturalist. Natural history museum collections and their collectors have always remained somewhat hidden from the public, not so much by design, but because our work tends to be overshadowed by our museum's public exhibits. I got my start as a naturalist in much the same way Roosevelt did. We both grew up in New York City, but we both had access to the country and craved the chance to explore the natural world. We were enthralled with animals, birds and mammals especially, and obsessed with building serious boyhood natural history museums. We were introduced to guns at an early age and developed a lifelong passion for hunting. Taxidermy was something we studied for a time, but I suspect that Roosevelt, like me, only did so because it was an essential skill for building music.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?